Nigeria, a metaphor of the frog in the kettle. Place a frog in a kettle filled with cold water and slowly apply heat. As the temperature rises gradually, the frog relaxes, enjoying the warmth and failing to notice the growing danger. By the time the water reaches a deadly level, the heat has already weakened the frog, making escape nearly impossible. But if boiling water is prepared first and a frog is dropped into it, the shock is immediate. The frog senses the danger instantly and leaps out without hesitation. Nigeria is the frog in the kettle. Placed in cold water, it grew comfortable as the temperature rose, gradually, quietly, deceptively. Warnings were dismissed, cries were normalized, and danger was rebranded as exaggeration. The slow burn of insecurity, selective justice, and targeted violence became routine, even as lives were lost. But when the heat finally surged, when the United States turned up the fire, the shock was instant. What years of domestic denial failed to provoke, external pressure suddenly did. The frog that had long ignored the warming water is now responding without hesitation. From President Trump's grave warning about an existential threat to Christianity in Nigeria, to a humiliating diplomatic encounter in Washington, and finally to an unfiltered declaration of war by ISWAP itself, the truth emerged with brutal clarity, leaving the world to confront what Nigeria's leaders would not. On November 20th, 2025, the Nigerian government sent a high-powered delegation following Trump's remarks about Nigeria's handling of anti-Christian violence, where he threatened potential U.S. military intervention. Prior to this date, precisely on 30th October 2025, President Trump designated Nigeria a country of particular concern. CPC designation is applied to nations whose governments engage in or tolerate particularly severe violations of religious freedom. In President Trump's speech, Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern, Trump concluded. The Nigerian government, in her usual and local way of suppressing her citizens with baseless and politically motivated argument, rejected Trump's characterization, saying that allegations were inaccurate and misrepresentative. In their usual rhetoric of lies and selfish ambition, the delegates rather went to the White House to argue that killings in Nigeria have nothing to do with religion, that both Christians and Muslims are murdered alike. They argued that violence affects all Nigerians regardless of faith. The U.S. Congress, with ample and verifiable evidence, pushed back, sharply disagreeing with them and worsening their panic as it became clear to them that U.S. intervention was inevitable. But then, why was it difficult for the so-called high-powered delegates to deny the fact that there is exponential insecurity in Nigeria? They were simply because they were forced to face the U.S., where a spade is called a spade, and existing system corrects the deviant. The story would have been different in Nigeria's House of Assembly, where rubber-stamped Senator Akpabio superintends over a platoon of dangerous leaders who monetize and politicize delicate cases in the upper and lower chamber. Today, the argument is laid to rest as Islamic State of West Africa Province, ISWAP, released a viral video showing how, in their extremist tendency, burnt down one of the Christian villages in Adamawa and openly declared war against Christians without mincing words. ISWAP said, and I quote, "Convert to Islam or die. All Christians in Nigeria are legitimate targets, and they have an opportunity to spare with their blood by converting to Islam or paying tax to Islam," ISWAP concluded. A United States Congressman, Riley Moore, reacting to this in a post via his verified X handle, said, "The debate over the motives behind attacks on Christian communities in Nigeria should be settled. If there were any remaining doubts that Christians in Nigeria are being targeted for their faith in Jesus Christ, this should end that debate. This isn't about land usage, climate change, or any other argument. This is persecution of our brothers and sisters for their faith in Christ, plain and simple." he wrote. Of course, a couple of moral lessons can be learned from this. When words fail, evidence speaks, and when governments deny, history records. The Nigerian state may have dismissed claims of religiously motivated violence as misrepresentative, but reality refused to be silenced. When a nation repeatedly fails to protect its citizens or confront systemic injustice, external scrutiny becomes inevitable. Sovereignty is strengthened by responsibility, not weakened by truth. Ignoring moral crises at home often invites pressure from abroad. Again, violent ideologies do not grow in a vacuum. They flourish where institutions are weak, justice is selective, and truth is negotiable. When a state fails to confront extremism honestly and decisively, it unintentionally emboldens those who believe violence. Moreover, to dismiss targeted violence as misrepresentation is not neutrality, it is cruelty. When victims are told their suffering is exaggerated or irrelevant, injustice is compounded. Recognition is the first step towards healing. Denial is an extension of harm. It is also key to learn that leadership is tested not when things are easy, but when injustice demands honesty. When those entrusted with power prioritize image, self-preservation, or political loyalty over the protection of innocent lives, they forfeit moral legitimacy. A government that refuses to name evil loses the trust of its people and the respect of the world. Finally, governments may deny, reframe, or politicize reality, but truth has a way of resurfacing, often through undeniable evidence. When narratives collapse under facts, history remembers not the denials, but the damage caused by them. Silence, deflection, or propaganda only delays accountability. It never erases responsibility. A word is enough for the wise.